Most men don't get obsessed with women. They get obsessed with one feeling, and when one woman becomes connected to that feeling, she doesn't leave his mind, even if she leaves his life. And the real reason has almost nothing to do with love, the thought that appears without warning. There is a moment most men never talk about, not because it's dramatic, not because it's obvious, but because it sneaks in quietly. It doesn't arrive as love. It doesn't feel like desire. It doesn't even feel important at first. It feels like a thought, a small one, a thought that shows up when he's busy, when he's driving, when he's scrolling, when he's doing everything except thinking about her. And that's what confuses him, because he didn't invite it. One day, everything feels normal. The next day, there she is, sitting somewhere in the back of his mind. Not loudly, not demanding attention, just present. He doesn't stop what he's doing. He doesn't say her name out loud. He doesn't tell anyone. But something inside him shifts. He catches himself replaying a moment he didn't think mattered. A look that lasted half a second longer than usual. A laugh that felt different. A calm feeling he can't explain. And that's when the loop begins. He tells himself it's nothing, just a passing thought, just boredom, just imagination. But the thought comes back, not stronger, not louder, just steady. Men don't decide to focus on one woman. It doesn't happen through effort or intention. It happens when their mind quietly chooses before they do. And most of the time, he doesn't even understand why it chose her. He's been around other women. He's seen beauty. He's felt attraction. This feels different because it doesn't live in excitement. It lives in stillness. He can go through his entire day without mentioning her once, but inside she appears between thoughts, between moments, between breaths. And the strange part, he doesn't feel obsessed. He feels curious. Why does she keep coming back into my head? Why that moment? Why now? Men don't analyze these questions out loud. They sit with them silently. And the more he tries to ignore it, the more his mind returns to the same place. Not to her face, not to her body, not to a fantasy, to a feeling he didn't expect, a feeling he didn't plan, a feeling that feels familiar and new at the same time. That's when it becomes dangerous. Because once a man notices a feeling he hasn't felt in a long time, his mind refuses to let it go. This is how it starts, not with obsession, not with love, not with desire, but with a quiet awareness that something inside him was touched. And here's the part most people get wrong. Men don't get attached to many women. They get attached to one feeling. And when one woman becomes connected to that feeling, she doesn't leave his mind easily. But this is only the surface, because the real reason this happens has nothing to do with romance, attraction, or chemistry. It has everything to do with what she unknowingly awakens inside him. And that's where the story truly begins. How men actually form attachment. Most people think men attach fast. They think men fall because of attraction, because of looks, because of chemistry. That's not how it works. Men don't attach in loud moments. They attach in quiet ones. It doesn't happen when everything feels exciting. It happens when everything suddenly feels calm. A man can feel drawn to many women. He can feel desire. He can feel interest. But attachment is different. Attachment begins when his guard lowers without him noticing. Men spend most of their lives holding themselves together. They stay alert. They stay controlled. They stay ready. Even when they're relaxed, a part of them is always watching. But then one woman enters his space, and something strange happens. He doesn't feel the need to impress. He doesn't feel the need to perform. He doesn't feel the need to protect himself. For a moment, he just exists. And that moment stays with him. Men don't attach to perfection, they attach to ease. The way conversation flows without effort, the way silence doesn't feel awkward, the way he can breathe without thinking about it. This is the part most people overlook. A man doesn't fall when he feels wanted. He falls when he feels understood without explanation. She doesn't have to say the right words. She doesn't have to do anything special. It's the absence of pressure that does it. And his mind notices before his heart does. He starts paying attention to small things without meaning to. How her mood feels in a room. How her presence changes the energy around him. How time feels different when she's nearby. These details don't excite him. They ground him. Men don't attach through intensity. They attach through stability. That's why it takes them longer to realize what's happening. From the outside, nothing looks dramatic. No big gestures, no emotional confessions, but inside something is forming quietly. A sense of familiarity that doesn't make sense yet. A comfort that didn't have to be earned. A calm that feels rare. This is how attachment begins, not because she stood out, but because everything else faded when she was around. And once a man associates a woman with peace, his mind does something important. It marks her as different, not better than everyone else, just different in a way that feels personal. He doesn't tell anyone. He doesn't even fully admit it to himself, but he starts comparing without trying to. Other conversations feel louder, other connections feel heavier, other moments feel rushed, and that's when he realizes something has changed. He didn't choose to attach, his nervous system did, because for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like he had to hold himself together. And once a man experiences that feeling, he looks for it again, not consciously, not intentionally, but instinctively. This is why attachment feels confusing to him, because it didn't arrive with fireworks, it arrived with silence, and that silence meant something. But attachment alone doesn't explain obsession, because many men feel attachment and still move on. What turns attachment into fixation is something much smaller, something subtle, something she often doesn't even realize she's giving, and that's what the next section reveals. The signals she sends without knowing. Most women think men notice big things, confidence, beauty, boldness, but the truth is, the signals that stay in a man's mind are almost invisible. They're not planned, they're not performed, they're not intentional. They happen when she's not trying. A man doesn't get pulled in by what she shows the world. He gets pulled in by what slips through when she's relaxed. The way her voice softens when she's comfortable. The way she listens without waiting to speak. The way she reacts instead of performs. These moments don't look important from the outside, but to a man they feel rare because men live in a world of noise, competition, expectation, pressure. So when a woman carries a calm presence, his mind notices immediately, not because she demands attention, but because she doesn't. There's something powerful about someone who doesn't rush energy into a room, who doesn't need to prove anything, who doesn't fill silence just to avoid it. Men feel that, even if they can't explain it. It might be the way she handles stress without turning cold, the way she stays kind when things don't go her way, the way she speaks about others when they're not around. These aren't traits men list, they're traits men feel, and feelings imprint deeper than logic. A man's guard isn't broken by charm, it's softened by consistency. When a woman shows emotional steadiness, his nervous system relaxes around her. That's when the signal lands. Safety, not physical safety, emotional safety. The kind that tells him without words, you don't have to brace yourself here. And once a man feels that, his mind starts protecting the source. He begins remembering small details without effort. A sentence she said casually, a reaction she didn't think twice about, a moment she probably forgot the next day. But he didn't, because those moments slipped past his defenses. Men don't attach to performance, they attach to authenticity. And authenticity doesn't announce itself, it shows up quietly. A natural smile, a calm response, a presence that doesn't ask for attention but holds it anyway. This is where obsession begins forming, not because she tried to stand out, but because she didn't have to. His mind starts tagging her as different, not logically, emotionally. He may not want to admit it, he may not even fully recognize it, but something inside him says, pay attention. And that voice doesn't get loud, it gets persistent. That's why her absence feels noticeable. That's why her presence feels grounding. That's why she lingers in his thoughts longer than she should. But here's the twist. He's not thinking about her all the time because of what she did. He's thinking about her because of how he felt when she wasn't trying to do anything at all. And that realization leads to something deeper, because once a man starts replaying moments, the focus shifts from her to himself, and that's where the real attachment takes shape. That's what the next section uncovers. Why he replays her when no one is watching. When a man can't stop thinking about one woman, most people assume it's because he misses her. That's only part of the truth. What he's really replaying isn't her face. It's not her voice. It's not even the moment itself. It's the way he felt in that moment. Men don't talk through emotions. They think through them, over and over. A memory that meant nothing to others becomes a quiet loop in his mind. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was different. A small conversation, a shared silence, a moment where he felt lighter than usual. These moments return when the world slows down, late at night, early in the morning, in between distractions, and each time the memory plays, something inside him shifts. He starts asking questions he doesn't say out loud. Why did that feel so good? Why did I feel so calm? Why do I want to go back to that moment? He's not trying to figure her out, he's trying to understand himself. Because that version of him, the relaxed one, the open one, the unguarded one, doesn't show up often. Men live most of their lives managing themselves, their reactions, their image, their responsibilities. So when a woman becomes connected to a version of him that feels free, his mind holds onto it tightly, not obsessively, protectively. This is where people misunderstand men. They think obsession means fixation on a person, but for men, obsession is often fixation on a feeling that reminded him who he was before pressure, expectations, and restraint took over. He replays the moment not because he wants to fall deeper, but because he wants to feel that version of himself again. That's why the memory doesn't fade, it becomes a reference point. When things feel heavy, his mind drifts back there. When life feels noisy, he remembers her calm. When he feels closed off, he remembers how open he felt around her. And slowly, without realizing it, she becomes tied to comfort, not excitement, not fantasy. Comfort. This is why he stays emotionally loyal in his thoughts, even when nothing is happening, even when they're not talking, even when time has passed, even when logic tells him to move on, because he's not holding on to her, he's holding on to the version of himself she unlocked. And once a man connects someone to his inner peace, his mind treats that connection as rare. Replaceable things fade, rare things don't. But there's another layer beneath this, a layer most men never admit, because along with comfort comes fear, and that fear is what keeps her anchored even deeper in his mind. That's what the next section reveals. The fear that keeps her locked in his mind. Men are taught early how to look strong, how to stay composed, how to keep things together. What they're not taught is how to explain what they feel, so most of the time they don't. They carry emotions silently, they process them alone, they lock them away where no one can see. That's why when one woman makes a man feel safe enough to soften, it doesn't just comfort him, it scares him, because safety creates exposure. For a brief moment around her, he didn't feel guarded. He didn't feel like he had to manage himself. He didn't feel like he had to stay closed. And once a man realizes that someone can see him in that state, a quiet fear forms. What if she sees all of me? What if I open up too much? What if she leaves after that? This fear doesn't push her out of his mind, it pulls her in deeper, because now she's connected to vulnerability. Men don't fear rejection the way people think. They fear being seen and dismissed. They fear allowing someone access to their inner world and finding out it wasn't valued. So when a woman touches that hidden place and doesn't hurt it, his mind marks her as important. Even if nothing happens between them, even if he never says a word, even if he pretends it doesn't matter, inside it matters more than he admits. That fear does something powerful. It makes memories sharper, moments brighter, her presence heavier, because his mind is trying to preserve something rare. Men don't get many places where they can rest emotionally, so when one appears, even briefly, they protect it. That's why he thinks about her during quiet moments. That's why her memory feels warm instead of intense. That's why he carries her even when life moves on. He's not afraid of losing her. He's afraid of losing the part of himself that felt safe around her. And that fear creates loyalty, not outward loyalty, inner loyalty, the kind that lives in thoughts, not actions. This is why a man can appear distant while feeling deeply attached inside, because opening up once changed something. It showed him a version of life that felt softer. And once a man sees that, he doesn't forget the person who showed it to him. But there's still one final layer, one truth that ties everything together, because even fear doesn't fully explain why one woman becomes unforgettable. The real reason goes deeper than emotion, deeper than memory, deeper than attachment. And that truth is what the final section reveals. How one woman quietly changes a man's direction. After that fear settles in, something else begins to happen inside him. It's not dramatic, it's not sudden, No one around him notices it, but his inner world starts shifting. He moves differently through life. The things that once distracted him don't hit the same anymore. Surface-level conversations feel empty. Quick connections feel loud and unfinished. Not because he's unhappy, but because his emotional standard has changed. Once a man experiences a calm, honest connection, even briefly, his mind recalibrates. He becomes more selective without trying to be, more reserved with his energy, less interested in noise. This is where people misunderstand him. They think he's distant. They think he's closed off. They think he's hard to reach. But the truth is simpler. He's protecting a feeling. That woman didn't just affect how he felt about her. She affected how he feels about everything. She became a reference point. Before her, he didn't know what emotional ease felt like. After her, he can't unfeel it. So his choices begin to shift. He walks away from situations that don't feel right. He stops forcing connections. He listens more closely to his inner response. Not because he's chasing her, but because he doesn't want to lose himself again. This is how one woman changes a man without staying in his life. She resets his emotional compass, and once that compass adjusts, there's no going back. He might date, he might meet others, he might even care, but deep down he's measuring something new, not excitement, not intensity, peace, and if it's not there, he feels it immediately. This is why casual connections stop working for him. This is why shallow attention doesn't satisfy him. This is why he becomes quieter, not louder, because silence feels safer now. And here's the part few people realize. She didn't raise his standards for women. She raised his standards for himself. He becomes more aware of how he shows up, more conscious of how he treats others, more honest about what he needs emotionally. All because one moment showed him what alignment feels like. Even if she never knows it, even if he never says it, her impact lives in his decisions, in the way he pauses before committing, in the way he steps back instead of forcing, in the way he protects his inner world more carefully. That's why she doesn't fade, because she didn't just touch his heart, she redirected his path. And now with that shift complete, the final truth becomes clear. The truth that explains why one woman can live in a man's mind long after she's gone. That truth comes next. The real reason he never truly lets go. Here is the truth most people never hear. A man doesn't stay stuck on one woman because she was perfect. He doesn't stay because she was rare. He doesn't stay because he couldn't move on. He stays because she showed him something about himself, something he didn't know he was missing. Around her, he felt different. Not excited, not overwhelmed, not consumed, just real. He laughed easier. He breathed deeper. He felt lighter in his own skin. That version of himself mattered. And once a man experiences a version of himself he actually likes being, his mind holds on to the moment that revealed it. This is where everything changes. He's not attached to her. He's attached to who he was when she was around. She became a mirror, not because she tried to change him, not because she healed him, not because she saved him, but because her presence made him feel safe enough to be himself. That's rare. Men don't spend their lives looking for women who impress them. They spend their lives unknowingly searching for moments where they don't have to perform. And when one woman becomes connected to that feeling, she leaves a mark. Even if they part ways, even if nothing happens, even if time moves on, because she represents clarity, a reminder that he's capable of softness, of openness, of peace. That's why she doesn't fade, not because of love, but because she helped him remember who he wants to be. This is why he thinks of her during quiet moments, why her memory feels warm instead of painful, why he doesn't resent her, even if she's gone. She wasn't the one that got away, she was the one who woke something up, and once that door opens it doesn't close again, not because of her, but because of what he discovered about himself. So when you wonder why a man can't stop thinking about one woman, understand this: it was never about obsession. It was never about attachment. It was never about romance. It was about identity. She helped him see a version of himself that felt whole, and that's something no man forgets. Conclusion. So if you've ever wondered why a man can't fully let go of one woman, it's not because she was perfect. It's not because he's weak, and it's not because he's stuck in the past. It's because she helped him remember a version of himself he didn't know he missed. A version that felt calmer, more open, more real. And once a man reconnects with that part of himself, he doesn't forget the person who made it visible. not because he wants to go back, but because that moment changed how he sees himself. And that understanding stays. If this video made you think of someone, or helped you understand your own emotions a little better, leave a comment with just one word, understood. And if you want more videos that explore the quiet side of human psychology, the thoughts people don't say out loud, and the feelings most men never explain, subscribe, because these are conversations most people never have.